Happy Victory Monday on the Bear Down segment, part of the Coach Steve Show, which means Zach's here. We win!
Yes!
Victory Monday for the Chicago Bears.
It's a good feeling.
And it wasn't a close win. It was dominant. It was a dominant victory. Justin who, am I right? That's kind of what I'm thinking. Justin who? Not that other first-round pick?
Well, I mean, hey, man, no other Bear. Here's the thing. First Bears quarterback in his rookie season to have two 300-yard passing games this early on. Also, the most yards throwing through the air of any Bears rookie to ever exist in the first 5 games of his career.
So we're doing okay with the picks so far.
I say things are looking pretty good. And a 5th straight week of better passer rating. It hit 126 this week with a 300-yard game and 2 touchdowns.
And the deep ball was finally there.
DJ Moore had a hell of a day. 2 deep ball passes, what he was looking for.
Oh, the Panthers marched down and score early. We don't score. They marched down and score early. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. Like, is this going to happen? And then all of a sudden the Bears were like, wait a minute. We have a better defense. We have athletes on offense. And it just finally started to come together. They started to play even more off of each other. Defense was giving offense good field position. The offense was starting to run the ball. And then they were completing some passes. Caleb Williams finally connected to DJ Moore, which we haven't seen in a while. And we knew he was due for some. And, oh, my gosh, it was just like a fun game. Like, after a while, it just became a fun game. You just got to sit back and relax. There was no fear of screwing it up. It was just sit back, relax, and kind of watch them cook. And a second straight week of Shane Waldron calling a good offensive game plan.
Yeah. So like I was saying, or like we were saying, sorry, don't mean to take any credit away. Was he going to lean in and learn? Has he learned more about his personnel? Is he adapting and finding out what's best? And you know what? That's 2 straight weeks of saying, you know what? I realize my guys are great between the tackles a lot of times. I can still use my stuff. I can still call screens and be effective, which there were a few. But you noticed he went away from some of those very predictable and high volume plays to the outside where the screens, those outside sweeps or outside zones. Still used them from time to time, but leaned into what was the strength of that offense. Interior run game, which in that point helps open up the pass game and vice versa. It's a very different and very, I would say, off-kilter way of play calling for the defensive side because they have to keep guessing. And that's what makes some of the really fantastic offensive coordinators is you can have your style of play, but we see with Shane the last 2 weeks, he's been able to kind of say, okay, I'll sprinkle in some things maybe I'm not as comfortable with, but I know my guys like, and it's working. They're getting around the field. You can even look at the pass charts for Caleb Williams. We're not just talking run game. It's varied. It's middle. It's to the outside. It's deep. You don't see much of this outside or zone or screen passing game as often as the first 3 weeks. And that's a great thing. And this, again, soft underbelly of the schedule right now for the most part. And this was another game. You can kind of tune that up. Few toughish opponents ahead, but still very manageable ones, and getting better every week. It's really nice to see.
Except for the very first pass was an out route. I think I tweeted. I was like, "Oh, of course."
Oh yeah,
it's a freaking.
It can't be this era of Bears football without an out route to start the game, 5 yards or something along that line to get it quick going.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, it was an out route, and then I was gonna tweet, but I didn't. I was like, "Oh, I bet the next play's a screen." Like I bet the next one is a screen. But they go 3 and out or whatever it was, and then there's but again, I started to think back to our conversation. The Bears' defensive run, like they were letting Hubbard just run the football on him. I'm like, oh god, this is what's going to come down to is they cannot stop the run. And then he had that breakaway run, and I was like, oh no, like,
oh yeah,
is this going to be competitive? It's going to be a close game. And then I think the Bears had an awakening on defense and just kind of said, we can't let this happen. And they just kind of sold out on the run. And I know Hubbard still had 97 yards, but 38 of those yards was the big run.
Right.
But besides that, they then after that they held them in check. And I think they finally accepted saying, okay, we got to sell it on the run, like we talked about, and then just if we're going to lose, Andy Dalton has to beat us. He has to throw for 400 and some yards and have like this career day. And what else did they have to do to win? Well, they had to be physical to receivers, knock them off the routes.
Yep.
And they had to get to Andy Dalton. There was times he had a beautiful pocket, but they also sacked him 3 times. They sacked him 3 times. He was 18 of 28, so he had a rating of 61, QBR of 32.
Mm-hmm.
And so they really rely on that. I think that's the game plan. You got to sell it on the run. And I think we have a great secondary for any team to say, we trust that these guys are going to make plays. If we sell it on the run and bring pressure, we're going to be just fine. And Greg Braggs tweeted it best, I think today or yesterday. He said, I don't want to hear that it's the Panthers. It's the Panthers. Like, this is still the NFL.
Yeah.
And it's still confidence building. And they easily could have overlooked this game. They could have easily, Caleb Williams could have had a bad game. They could have not done this. But the defense did what they're supposed to do. And then Caleb Williams just keeps getting better and better. And it was like he had 304 yards. It was like a quiet 304 yards. I know he had the 2 big plays to DJ Moore, but if you think about it, it's like a quiet 20 for 29. Like,
yeah, a little bit.
Amazing. And he only got sacked once. 1 sack. That's it.
That's what you want to see, though. I mean, it's nice. Actually, something that surprised me. So, every Monday you have the PFF grades released from the weekend. Bill Murray was one of the top 5 best Bears players in that game this past week. I think he hit like an 80 something PFF grade. And I mean, there was one play I saw in a pass down. It was actually the one that Caleb bought time for 2 or 3 spins. Credit, it was a throwaway. Man knocked down 3 defenders while doing this. He has a motor. Came off the bench and I think had something to prove. And honestly, pretty good stuff. Honestly, I think they're even figuring out who might want it a little bit more badly right now on the offensive line, because Nate Davis seemed like to be the 3rd string guard in this whole formation by the end of the day. Yeah, he didn't get subbed in when there was issues with Jenkins. Bill came in.
Yeah, or
he did just fine.
And then who got thrown out after that little melee thing? Why am I drawing a blank? Left tackle just got thrown out. My God.
Darnell Wright or Jones would be who you're talking.
I think Jones got thrown out, and I don't even think they put Nate Davis in. I don't think they threw him in there. I think they were well, here we go.
Yeah, I don't even know. Yeah, see, Jones would be the left. Yeah, it's Jones. It was right. Darnell Wright's the right tackle. So
when he threw that punch when he didn't need to, when that whole thing was happening,
it's a little extra, but
it's a little extra. But amazingly, only 5 catches for 105 yards. DJ Moore, highest paid Bears player in history, finally getting his. And he's been patient, but he also said he wants to do what it takes to win.
Right.
And we knew he's going to pop off. And now we've seen Caleb Williams be a leader.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen him hit the short game. We've seen him start to stand in the pocket. He doesn't always want to take off. He's trying to throw the ball. He'll only throw when he needs to. He had 34 yards rushing when he needs to. And now he's finally seeing the deep ball be connected, because that's just all it takes for a rookie, is just to see it happen. Like, I could see myself completing these passes. I could see myself throwing it up to DJ Moore, and he's going to get it. I can just spray around to everybody. DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Swift, Dunze, Allen, all were getting catches. Sprinkle it to everybody. And so as a defense, you're like, who do we stop? Who's he going to throw it to? Who do we stop? It kind of reminds me of the Patriots.
Well, we talked about this last week. I like that it's flavor of the week. You don't have to lean on just one guy. There are so many weapons on this offense that can burn a team if it's going to kick into high gear. And we're getting better and better every week right now. And you see every week it's someone else who's different, who's kind of blowing up, but still seeing guys that are contributing and having decent stat lines. Cole Kmet consistently has been like a number 2 the last 3 weeks, 50 plus yards, getting multiple catches, has been a reliable kind of middle range tight end, but he's been getting reliable open looks so far. Keenan Allen's getting back from injury a bit more, but you saw Rome Odunze, kind of a reliable 5 catches, 40 yards, nothing deep, but, reliable mid-range guy for them. And then you still got Swift, but, Odunze, you saw, can blow up if he needs to. Keenan Allen, we know, can be that guy if he has to, but he doesn't need to be that in this offense. He needs to be a reliable veteran presence that can get you some yards if in a pinch. Cole Kmet doesn't have to be that guy either. DJ Moore was brought in to be number one, but say he gets double teamed, he takes somebody away. That's what makes some fantastic offenses in the league. Some of the most legendary offenses in NFL history is, who do you stop? The flavor of the week is what makes this so deadly if it comes to plan like it's looking like it has been. Again, not to be with that crew that it's just Carolina, but I mean, I don't think we've still seen the best of the Bears. And that's wild to say in a 36-10 blowout, where it was really coasting the second half. Like, I'll be honest. Yeah. I was at the local bar I'm at that I found that's my kind of guys. I think I've locked down. And I mean, mid-third quarter, I was basically getting distracted doing other shenanigans with the folks there because of just how much it was in the bag. Nothing was going right for Carolina. Chicago didn't have to do too much. They were just trying to see if they could experiment a little bit.
Right.
That's it.
Because I probably paid attention to the third quarter just because, like, it is an NFL. You just kind of never know.
Of course.
And I felt that. I felt like the Bears didn't take their foot completely off the gas, but they eased it back a little bit, saying, okay, it's, 27-7 at half. Our defense is locked down. We're just gonna test some things. Maybe I think I saw Roschon Johnson in at fullback one play and had Swift in the backfield. They did get Doug Kramer in a lot at fullback there to go block. He had that chop block, and I'm like, oh, he's a lineman, man. He wants to do that. Just whatever.
You watch, he's gonna get converted to like a traditional fullback or something. The more they use him.
Oh, I mean, I don't think he'd carry. Like, oh, you're paying me to play for the Bears, my hometown team? Sure. They call him like the mini fridge. Like, one of the announcers was like, yeah, it's like when they put the fridge in. And I'm like, oh, but the fridge was probably twice his size. I mean, he was massive.
Yeah, wait until we get back to the sets where it's like Akeem Hicks back in the first year Matt Nagy or something like that. Or like Kramer's not big enough to be that guy, though. But he's like, the thing that's great with him is he's like almost an oversized fullback.
I think they're setting that up. I think they're going to keep putting him in. And if they get close enough, I think they will hand him the ball. I almost guarantee it's going to happen. They're going to see on film like, oh, when he's in, they even motioned him. They had him at that wing and ran him all the way over and to hit somebody.
You can tell they're practicing it because he's got some mobility to him a little bit.
Loved it.
Yeah, better to utilize him. I mean, hey, if they're going to keep Coleman Shelton in as the center, which, I mean, you can tell he's still rusty a few times and has had some assistance, but overall line stepped up entirely, it seems, as of late. If they're going to keep Coleman Shelton, then you might as well use your other man behind center, if he wants to. And if you're not worried about that depth, put him in, see what he's got. Why not? And clearly they found some magic in short yards because it's worked the last 3 weeks. Well, they've gotten him in.
And it's awesome because now if Swift continues to run downhill and do what he's doing, you get to the red zone, you have Roschon Johnson that can just pop in there and be like, I'm going to run you over and get in the end zone.
Oh, yeah.
And Swift proving that on the goal line, too. He had a rushing touchdown, but Roschon Johnson had 2. So now it's like, and Roschon Johnson proven in the last or a couple games ago, he can catch. So when he comes in on the goal line, if he can prove he can catch, like, okay, are they going to fake it to him and throw it? Are they going to run the ball? Doug Kramer's in. They can still throw it with him in there. He can block.
Right. Look, he's not going to be running the slot like with a 5-man set like you saw, or 5-man empty set like you saw with Caleb when you've seen it play like DeAndre Swift. But guy can catch screens. Guy can catch kind of a safety valve dump off, or like a kind of one of those out like one of those out flat routes, if you will. He still is. We've seen it. You're absolutely right. I mean, I'm glad to see that they've realized that he is the definitive number 2 in what you need him. Short yardage. He's a thunder guy, and still is versatile enough to be in this offense. And, I haven't seen any complaints on terms of blocking when they've needed running backs in as of late. So I think they've found their guys in the pocket that do manage the best for being that extra person behind center if they need to. I want to flip this back to Swift, by the way. You talked about his running style, Steve, and maybe I want to hear your thoughts on this. I think part of what's changed since people basically, as we quote from Barstool Sports, bullied DeAndre Swift online, I think he's just decided, I'm just going to look at the gap and run. Like, there's hesitant runners. Like this week in particular, I really saw a guy that just said, you know what? If I see daylight, I'm just going to hit it. Like, it doesn't matter what happens after that. If I can get that first cut and then see if I can find a second cut, I'll work it off there. Some runners are great in the hesitant running, like we saw with we've seen with Taylor over in Indianapolis. Le'Veon Bell made a career off that. I think Swift's just better when he just hits the hole and goes. And I think that's what we've seen is he's just not hesitating anymore. He's just finding daylight. First time he sees it, he just hits it instead this time.
That's what I was thinking, because he's fast enough to just, as soon as he sees it, go. And that speed sometimes is more effective than the big bruiser runner, like if he's fast enough and sees the hole and just goes, and if a defense knows that and has the threat of, he is hitting it on the inside, at some point that defensive lineman's going to stay on the inside, or the linebacker's going to hit it on the inside. And what opens up after that? Well, that cut that he wants to make to get to the outside. We saw it a little bit last week. I think it was like the first play they ran like a duo downhill run play, and it was all clogged up, and he cut it to the outside. And it's just, if you could show that you're going to do it, and you keep, it's like Novocaine, it's going to work. Like it's just like Novocaine. You keep doing it, and with his speed, he can bounce it outside. He can do these things. So I think that's kind of what maybe mentally he's like, oh, fuck all you guys. I'm going to put my nose down and run. And then for him, he's a veteran. He's like, oh, wait a minute. If I continue to do this, the outside will open up. Then when the outside doesn't open up anymore, guess what's open? The inside. And I think first couple of games, it just felt like Swift wanted to hit the home run type of run. And last week was proven that if you continue just to go downhill, outside, he'll break away and get a touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
And so maybe that's kind of what it was. Maybe he I'm getting paid all this money. I got to have this home run hitter. I think Ryan Poles and company and the Bears were okay with, he only had 70 yards rushing. It's not like he had this amazing rushing game, but he chipped in 40 yards passing.
Right. I mean, over 100 yards overall on a day is great production. And no matter what player you are, that's just clearly you're an impact player at that point if you can do it in both facets of the game.
Right. But as Bears fans and Bears organization, I think we're all okay if, Swift only had 50 yards, but then this running back chipped in 30 yards. This wide receiver had 50 yards. This wide receiver had 60 yards, and we win. And you win 36-10. I think as a Bears organization and as fans, we've seen that where it's everybody's doing something, and you just don't have this. I know DJ Moore had the explosive thing, but you never would have known. He celebrates and he sits back down. He's ready to get back to work. It's not this flashy thing. He's just let's go. Because they showed him he caught his second touchdown pass. So he's just sitting on the bench. He just went back. He was looking at the iPad and stuff. He was okay, we got to get ready to get back.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that because he's not making it about him. He's well, we got to get back. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay if Swift doesn't have, oh my God, you're talking about he doesn't have 100 yards rushing? Yeah, but he chips it in the pass game.
Yep.
He got us to the goal line a couple times to let Roschon Johnson score. And it just feels like it's a team. It's your turn. Like you said, flavor of the week. It's your turn. Well, now it's your turn. Well, now it's your turn. Oh, hey, both of you are going to get yours. And again, I knew Caleb Williams was throwing a lot and had a lot of yards. It just felt like a quiet 300 and some yards. And I'm okay with that. I'm totally fine with that. And he's proving that this is why they're the number one pick, right?
Yeah. I think really and not to sound like a broken record for everyone else that's already said this online, but every week it seems like he gets just better and better. And I don't know what it is, the maturity on the field, but it just seems to have accelerated way beyond what I was expecting through 5 weeks, which probably shows to how much of a talent he is coming out like we all were expecting now. I think it's best what's cliche. The game slows down is what it is. I mean, every
Yes.
week you see something where it's like, okay, yes, offensive frustrations, but you see they're working things out. Shane Waldron talks and has been making adjustments, but also you see Caleb's been slowing it down. I'm not trying to show off my strength of my arm all the time. I can chuck it, but I can also check it down. I can also look for the intermediate routes. I can look off my routes. That DJ Moore second touchdown of the day, that kind of that like seam route that DJ ran one-on-one. That was a look off, and people love that play because that was not the original design, but he was aware there was a one-on-one on the other side, and if he could get it, which it became open, perfectly placed football right where it needed to be.
And like when Caleb was at USC, they relied so heavily on him to make a play. I know they had decent guys around him his first year because I think they were like 10-2 or something, and they had the players, and the next year didn't have the same players, didn't have the same production.
Right.
And he was throwing it 50 sometimes a game, and they were relying heavily on him. So I think these first couple games had to like get the kinks out of like, hey, I know in the NFL a lot of times the pressure gets put on the quarterback. You don't have to do that here. We have receivers. We have veteran receivers. You have a new receiver, and Odunze, you two can grow together, but you have Cole Kmet that you can lean on and talk to. You have DJ Moore. You have Keenan Allen, who's been around the block a few times. Swift's been around the block a few times, and stuff like that. So to get the kinks out of like, hey, you don't have to always force the issue. There might be times where we do have to rely on you if it's 2 minute and you have to go down and score. But guess what? If we don't have to rely on you all game, and that's like one of the only times, he'll get more comfortable. And then if the running backs are running this way, the old line starts to get confident too. They're starting to have fun. Then they can start to feel better about what they're doing, because when things are going bad, even if it's not always the old line's fault, it's always blamed on them, right? Like, oh my God, the quarterback got hit. Yeah, but he took off from the pocket when he wasn't supposed to. Or the running back got tackled at 2 or 3 yards and they blame the running O-line. But it's like, well, did the running back hit the hole? And that's why I tell my O-line, like, if you screw up, you're going to hear me from the sideline. Like, you'll know when you screwed up. If I'm not yelling anything to you, that means, oh, you probably didn't do anything wrong. And so if you can continue to run the ball, and then all of a sudden you're hitting some of these deeper passes, the O-line starts to feel better. And then they're like, okay, we got this. And they still have to go out there to be more confident. They impose their will. So when all this starts happening, they get confident. So this whole thing about it's just the Panthers, it's still an NFL team. This is what you're supposed to do. The Bears were supposed to do this on paper.
Correct. They actually remind me of what your score was. I know mine was 35-21. So they actually exceeded my expectations, and I've been I think I've been, for what it's worth, underscoring how good this Bears defense actually is.
I think I said 34. I said 34, 14, 17, something like that.
Okay.
I was up there, and I said the Panthers are only going to get like 14, 17 points. I think I said 38. So we were both pretty close. But I just had a feeling that we could score on this defense because the Carolina was banged up a little bit. I just didn't think their corners and safeties could keep up with the receivers, and we played against some decent defensive linemen for the first couple games that we could handle this. And if Swift and it was all going to come down to Swift and Caleb and them. Who's kind of fallen off is poor Khalil Herbert. I remember last year and the year before, he was on my list of like, hey, if him and Montgomery were in together, because he showed a lot of flashes, he's kind of fallen off. He's like their kick returner and punt returner, and that may have to be where he goes is, hey, you are agile, you can move. You're going to have to be our kick returner, probably punt returner. Like it was a Darren Sproles back in the day, I think.
Oh, well, without doubt, the Energizer Bunny himself.
Yeah, it's him. Like, hey, Khalil Herbert, you could probably make a career out of that here right now. Like, show that you could do that. But yeah, what a fall from grace for him.
I just think that, like, I think for what he needed to be elsewhere, and just that, other talents have kind of filled the void is the deal. They did, part of it is they swung for the fences on DeAndre Swift and they picked them up. And, that's clearly going to fill a need. Well, I've got a guy who's a little shiftier, and then you got Roshan Johnson. I'm not saying it's always going to come down to the blocking, but this has been a consistent topic with him is like, it's great when you can get him into run, but if you already have someone that fills the same position as him, has arguably better hands than DeAndre Swift, and you have a blocking back that you can put in if you need to, that still can disguise, by the way, as a runner. You don't have an obvious giveaway,
Right.
That's one thing with Herbert. If he's not in, odds are he's not blocking anymore. So, because that experiment's been far gone already, early years, he can't figure out how to handle the pocket.
Right.
But if you have guys where you can balance it out, I think that's a challenge. You can find guys that are just as productive, but also fill the needs of the offensive protection a bit better. I think that's where he kind of falters a little. He's got great talent. I just don't think he has the full package like the other two do.
Right.
Is the difference.
Yeah, I just felt kind of bad for him because he was showing a lot of flashes, and I knew the pass protection was a problem, but he was young. Like, he's not old. He's still pretty young when it comes to like running back age. But I knew he was going to fight for that second spot because Roshan Johnson at one point was like third string. So it's just kind of.
Oh, right. Well, I mean, think about this. Roshan Johnson wasn't even in the active roster week 1.
Right.
Which still baffles me that he was not the guy. Homer is a whole nother discussion on how they evaluated and said, yep, that's the man we need right there. I was like, okay. And clearly it's shown that, I think you definitely needed someone that has a little bit more thundering. I think a little more thundering and more of a brute force on the field for different types of packages. And again, it's like you've talked about. Roshan's got hands. He's not terrible at getting the short field passes, and getting downhill and maybe breaking a tackle or two if you need to. So, kind of makes you, like you said, ask the question, Khalil Herbert, do you elevate? Are you able to? And unfortunately, yeah, he's kind of the short end of the stick. Homer didn't make sense. And Herbert, unfortunately, gets kind of those skills filled up by the other two.
Oh,
just how it goes.
Speaking of that, we haven't seen our guy Velus Jones Jr. out on the field much since the beginning of the year.
The experiment's dead. At this point, it's dead. It's. You want to even talk about that? Yeah, that was the 5th running back, gadget player, and I think that experiment's finally over. I wish the best for the man, but
that was my joke.
Oh my God.
Well, I was just trying to think who else hasn't been out there. I was like, oh yeah, our guy Velus Jones ever since the dropped punts and kickoffs debacle.
I mean, yeah, and I would say an active list this past weekend, and again, who do you put in the active for receiver if you don't have for running back? Because DeAndre Carter got the got the nod, and I kind of agree with that pickup, for the most part. So. Velus.
Well, DeAndre Carter.
Somehow, some way, this man must have some sort of tie to the front office that keeps him kicking.
Yeah. Well, what blackmail does he have on somebody?
What is the dirt? At least they've got the courage to put him in an active list now. But what was the dirt?
Was somebody on the Epstein Island list that he knows about? And
Diddy's getting investigated. We may have answers soon.
Well, I mean, Tyler Scott's shown better hands than him, and Carter's shown better, so maybe that's why. And then Khalil Herbert's been doing the kick returning lately, so maybe that's another reason as to why, oh, wait a minute. Scott can return kicks, and he can return kicks. We don't. But you kept a roster spot for him, and pay him because he's technically behind Dunze on the depth chart, but I guarantee you they're like, wait a minute, we'll just put Carter in and screw that.
Right. You've got so many other options before you need to go to Velus.
You can even put, maybe that's why Swift has been out there too. Maybe they're like, we don't want to put him in. So Swift, you go out to wide receiver.
That's what we've been talking about, right? He's been playing like a slot receiver. Why do you even need to worry about finding your guy? You got your slot receiver in the running back spot. You've got a Velus Jones upgraded times 3+.
Yes.
DeAndre Swift.
I thought that'd be funny. Not funny enough.
I mean, look, it's it's wild. The experiment's dead. It's finally dead. Unless there's an injury, it's dead, Steve.
Oh God, knock on wood, because we don't need.
I don't got any wooden items by me, but
My whole
whatever.
desk is. Here we go.
Actually, this is plywood, so yeah, I'll do
We'll
that.
take any type, because if he had, let me say this: when he was in at running back, it wasn't too bad. Bayless Jones Jr. running the ball was not too bad, because
There were some
literally,
flashes. There were some flashes. I'll give you that.
because you didn't have to throw it to him, you just have to hand the ball to him. Like, there you go.
You don't got to kick to him. You don't got to throw to him. Just give him the ball and run, and then hold on to it. But then he fumbled. Is the thing.
He did, didn't he?
But then he fumbled. And
he's fired.
That's what I'm saying. You give this guy everything.
And he was on the bubble to be cut.
It's wild.
And I don't want to sound mean, like cut him and this and that, but like it is a business, and they do have a lot of money. Like,
it's a great mystery.
I don't understand it. Like, what does he have?
Whatever he has, he's along for this ride right now. Just not active last 2 weeks.
Another part of this game that I thought was funny was they put Bryce Young in, and he completes like a long pass, his first pass, and I was like, oh, okay. Then he's moving around, completes another pass, and I was like, oh, okay. And then takes off for an 8-yard run, and I'm like, thank God we're up 36-10, because maybe he would have done some damage. I have no idea. But I know it was at the end of the game, so the Bears defense is probably like, we're tired. Get us off the field.
I'm fairly certain, too, they shifted in some backups late in that fourth quarter for some of those drives as well.
Oh, I'm sure. I just was
just off quick memory, I swear they did not have at least a good chunk of the starters on that defense at the end of the game.
But another thing awesome about the offense the last 2 weeks is the time control of the clock, having the ball for 33 minutes, sustaining drives. They're okay with 2 or 3 yard runs. No one's freaking out. They're like, oh, we got 2 or 3 yards. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're still okay. And the defense is getting some rest now, and that helps them become better because they're getting the rest. They did force Carolina to 3 turnovers. The Bears continue to show, I think they're like one of the top scoring defenses and takeaways since like November last year under Matt Eberflus after they got going. So, I mean, and the last 2 weeks, I don't know if we've seen much of head coaching fumbles either.
No.
Like, I don't think he's made bad choices.
There was one instance I thought he was going to pull the red flag out on an obvious incomplete, and he actually did. He actually stopped himself and did not do said thing that I was worried about. So good for him, you know. And honestly, it's fine. Hey, you know what? Stick to what you work at, and as long as Shane's getting better, let him do good on what he needs to do, and then pop in when you need to. But just hopefully we don't have to see that rear its ugly head anytime soon. But it's been quiet, That's fine. As long as we're not abusing timeouts, which quite frankly we did great on timeout management this week. So props to Eberflus there. Then I'm okay. Just let the master defensive coordinator cook. Right. That's all I want to see. Just let him cook, which he has been. It's a top 10 defense. They moved up the ranks. They are now 8th overall. Credit. Top 3 have only played 4 games. I digress. Right. 8th overall total defense right now. And then let me see here. Points per game. I just got to check myself because, I've been monitoring, so to speak.
Points per game for the defense?
Yeah. And now I can't find it. Never mind. I'll find it later on. We'll talk later. I had it and then I lost it. Nice.
I can't find it either.
Yeah, I had it on. Yeah, usually Pro Football Reference is pretty good, but
I mean, we're only giving up 17 points a game now, so that's good.
Yeah, only 120. Only one opponent this year has had above 20, and that was Indianapolis. That was from turnovers, basically setting up some softball pitch type of touchdowns.
That game still pisses me off. The fact that we lost to the Colts.
Just looking at it now, 4-1 is very possible if we just play any of that first half like the fourth quarter and the late third quarter.
Yeah, 3-2 is awesome for a rookie quarterback and a new team put together, but it just shows that I think everybody's in agreement that they could be 4-1.
Oh,
Because
sure.
credit to the Colts, they did what they had to do, and they came back. They beat the Steelers too. The following week, and doing what they're supposed to do. But looking back at it, you're like, oh my god, the defense was doing what it was doing, but our offense, had to rely on heavily on Caleb Williams in the second half. And I think it's proven that if we're relying heavily on a rookie quarterback to do that with nothing else, it's not going to go well until he's like in his fourth year, fourth year.
Yeah.
And once we get to that point, yeah, maybe a handful of games you go, hey, we're going to have to pass it 40, 50 times a game to win this game. Just whatever reason. And that's okay, but you can't do that to a rookie.
Here's a great stat piece that I'm just double checking here with the Pro Football Reference and assistance from Fox Sports' calculations. Great trend to turn around. We are tied for third best in the league in turnover margin right now, +5. The only two better are Green Bay and Buffalo at 7. Now, part of that's a lot of defense that's been pushing that, but remember we talked last week? Trend keeps going down.
Yep.
Ball security keeps going up. It's how do I put this? Hang on. I'm good. There we go. Right. Wait.
Oh, now you can't see it at all.
I was doing too much.
Hello, Paper Sports Channel. Hi, guys. Been feeling good lately. Let's go on a run because NFC North is tough.
Yes, sir.
Sure is.
Yes, sir.
That NFC, we said this was the last time or the one before. NFC North might be the best division in the entire NFC.
I think that was the last one.
If not, trending upwards to the like the whole NFL.
I'll tell you what, though. The Vikings this past week, and maybe it's just me nitpicking, if Sam Darnold regresses more frequently the way he did, I don't think we'll see that Vikings team being at the top at the end of the year. That defense is no joke over Minnesota, though.
No.
So keep that in mind. But Sam Darnold showed a chink in his armor this past week and a little hesitancy.
Sam Darnold became Sam Darnold.
Yes, he fell back to earth for a game.
He came back to normal. And it could have just been because they were, were they in London?
Yes, they were in London. I mean, the Jets defense isn't too much of a slouch. They were pressuring them all day. But I mean, we could be talking a different game if somehow that pick six doesn't happen against Aaron Rodgers.
Right. Right. But Minnesota's defense has only given up 76 points this year.
Mm-hmm.
The Bears are getting up 85.
Yeah, no joke there.
Detroit's only given up 82. And then the Green Bay Packers have given up 108.
But they're 3-2.
But they're 3-2.
But they're 3-2.
They're the second highest scoring in the NFC because they've scored 128 this year. Minnesota scored 139. Detroit scored 104, and the Bears have scored 113.
Wild.
Minnesota 5-0, Detroit 3-1, Green Bay and Chicago 3-2.
Unreal.
And I don't know if I'm leaning they're becoming the best in the NFL, but I know they're not. But it has to be the best division in the NFC for sure. It's like the most consistent right now.
I think right now it's the most entertaining by far. You every year you talk and everyone says like NFC East is like one of the best, or the AFC, you got honestly AFC North's usually pretty fun. I mean, this past weekend, freaking Ravens Bengals, good God. That was its own thing. And I could go on here. I can tell you this while I'm watching the Bears game. So this bar's got multiple fandoms that kind of come in. This Bengals fan, this was a roller coaster of a ride watching this man.
Oh God, I can only imagine.
And then the miss kick. Ooh. And then Derrick Henry ripping that 51-yarder in overtime.
Oh God.
You want to see a man's soul leave his body? Go to a sports bar and watch an OT loss.
Well, I'm looking at the records of the teams in all the other leagues. I'd have to say the NFC's up there, except for like scoring points per game, because
Right.
like poor Cincinnati Bengals, they've scored 140 points this year, but given up 145.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, Baltimore's pretty good, but like even in that, like I'm just looking.
Oh, sure.
Um, Kansas City's 4-0, Minnesota's 5-0. Not saying Minnesota's better, but you're just looking at it.
Oh,
The
yeah. Yeah.
Kansas City, they're playing as we speak. They're playing the Saints as we speak. But you're just looking at it like, wow, the AFC North. You got the Ravens at 3-2, Pittsburgh at 3-2. The Browns are 1-4, and Cincinnati's 1-4.
Mm-hmm.
AFC South, Texans are 4-1. The Colts are 2-3, and then it's like the Titans 1-3, Jacksonville 1-4. The AFC West, which has been lately one of the best. Kansas City's 4-0, Broncos are 3-2, Chargers 2-2, Vegas 2-3. So you just look at some of those, and then in NFC, it was always NFC West, right? Like that's the one.
That division's gotten weird now.
It's super weird. Seahawks are 3-2. They're leading it, but the Arizona Cardinals sometimes look really good because they beat the 49ers. So it's like,
I mean, they rallied. The 49ers freaking fell off the wagon again.
right.
You know,
like,
last 3 weeks, they have just second half completely shut down.
yeah, I mean, it's just so weird to pick up on these divisions. NFC South is, I mean, Tampa looks good, but the Atlanta Falcons are right there too at 3-2. So it's so weird. So and then the NFC East, Washington Commanders leading the way at 4-1.
Who would have thunk it, right?
Dallas had to dig deep into their soul to win. You know, they look like they were about to lose that one. The Giants, I think they're terrible, but they're 2-3.
Somehow, some way. I mean, Daniel Jones has to fight for his job somehow, right?
Yeah.
I guess same for Brian DeBall, honestly, for joking around.
How about the North got the best defense? The whole North defense is solid. Yes.
Yeah, I would agree. Even with Green Bay giving up 100 points, like the opponents they play, there's reasons.
Right.
Right.
I get it. But like the Denver Broncos defense seems pretty good. They've only given up 73 points. Kansas City's only given up 72. Pittsburgh Steelers only given up 73.
Mm-hmm.
The Jets has a good defense, gave up 85. Buffalo, I think, is the leading. No, the Baltimore Ravens are the leading team, I think. No. Washington Commanders have scored the most points, 155.
Mm-hmm.
Good Lord.
No, they've been fired. Dan Quinn's come in there, and between him and Jaden Daniels, and then like getting some veteran leadership on that defense, like a Bobby Wagner, it's just been looks revitalized. You know, it's incredible.
Yeah. I like Dan Quinn, so I'm glad that he found his like second chance as a head coach. He did decently with Atlanta, and then it kind of fell off. But I think he made a good hire in Cliff Kingsbury of like, hey, I'm going to hire a former head college coach.
Mm-hmm.
And he was also the head coach in the NFL. And if all he has to worry about is calling offense, that's probably the best thing, because he was a head coach trying to call offense. And you know what, Dan Quinn, you're the defense. It's kind of like the Bears. Hey, Eberflus, you're the defensive guy. You're the head coach. You take care of defense. Dan Quinn, you take care of defense. Cliff Kingsbury will take care of the offense, and just roll with it.
Yep.
And now they get up a lot of points, so they get up 115, but they're scoring 40 more than what they're
scoring. That's the thing. They're dropping buckets.
They've scored more. We've scored more than the Kansas City Chiefs.
And that's crazy. But then you think about Kansas City with its injury issues right now, and the fact that somehow 2 years in a row, I mean, credit, they're still figuring out their way. And I think maybe teams might, find out, hey, if we can slow down certain people in the Kansas City offense, maybe we get a little more opportunities. But
it also takes your toll, always playing deep into the playoffs each year. You get less break time than everybody else. And so I think after a while, that's going to wear and tear on your body a little bit, and the mental capacity of trying to get through the regular season. Now they're still 4-0.
Well, yeah. Meanwhile, they're still 4-0 and they're leading the Saints right now as we're live 10-7 with the ball. So what do we really know?
Right.
But it is kind of wild to say that when like Patrick Mahomes this year has looked human. 5 interceptions already through 4 games. That's kind of crazy. But some QBs have those stretches, I guess.
Some people good coordinators, but bad head coaches. Why is that Matt Nagy seem good as an OC? Matt Nagy, I'm not yelling at you, Hello Paper Sports Channel. I'm going to yell at everybody. Matt Nagy is not calling the plays. And I hate that. Andy Reid is calling the plays. And if
Matt got a stretch of plays back in 2017 that he got to call that essentially sealed his fate as getting himself a coaching job for the Bears. That's the whole story. He had a stretch to end the year again, Kansas City, on a good note. And that mark, along with some of his characteristics, is what led him to going to Chicago and being picked up at that time.
Mm-hmm. And we saw glimpses of that. I will say his first year, we saw glimpses of it. It was kind of like, okay.
Creative. It's different.
And then you didn't have Andy Reid to lean on anymore. It's like, oh, hey, so when people said like Eric Bieniemy was calling plays, I'm sure he was involved, but you cannot sit there and tell me that Andy Reid is not there calling plays. Does he call every single play? Probably not. He probably looks at Eric Bieniemy and says, hey, what do you like here? He might give him 1 or 2 things, and he might say, okay, yeah, call this one in. And I know they give him titles as OC and all that BS. Andy Reid is what makes that thing. He's the chef in the kitchen. Matt Nagy and Eric Bieniemy, and we saw Eric Bieniemy go to Washington, and it wasn't the same. Like, he was not. And I understand you get different players and all that BS. And I'm not yelling at you, Hello Paper, because we appreciate that you're here. Matt Nagy's just considered the OC because Andy Reid likes to help his guys get jobs. So if they give him the title as OC and people start to think that, and he can interview, like the Bears, he gave him that title and tries to help them get jobs. And that's why Andy Reid's one of the best head coaches ever, because he's great in the offense. He's great to relate to players, and he wants to help his guys get jobs. Like, he wants them to go get an OC job. He wants them to become a head coach. When you look at the Bears, you know for a fact Matty Eberflus is not calling the offense, and you know for a fact he's calling the defense. You look at every other team, you'll know who's calling the plays. Like, so Matt Nagy is not calling those plays. That is Andy Reid. Like, Matt Nagy might have a role. His role might be what's open in the pass game. That could be his role, But yeah, that's my little rant, because I hate how people were like, well, he was the OC at Kansas City. Why is he not bringing it to the Bears? And I'm like, he's not the chef, so quit trying to recreate what the chef is cooking.
He's got a ring, but like we really know who's the one that was pulling strings more often than not.
Andy Reid is Mr. Krabs with the secret formula. And only Mr. Krabs knows the secret formula. And Matt Nagy and them are like SpongeBob, who really doesn't know the secret formula. They're just doing it. And so when they leave, they don't have the secret formula of what to do on offense. Sorry, that's my little.
No, I think it's. Hang on, let me make sure I'm doing this right. Is this it? Oops, that's not what I was meaning to do.
Yeah, I know.
No. What have I done? I meant this one. Good job to you. You did a great job. Everybody
coming from
good job. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with Bill Belichick. You would think some of those coaches that leave.
I mean, Kevin McConnell is thriving right now, and that's a McVay tree guy.
Yeah, and how would I put this? Some of those guys, I think, when they leave, those head coaches, they do one of two things. They try to really just mimic them in every single way they can, and it doesn't work because that's not who they are. Everybody's different. Bill Belichick is the way he is because that's who he is. Nick Saban, he's the way he is because that's just the way he is.
Yeah.
Nick Saban is a Bill Belichick off of the Bill Belichick coaching tree. People forget that.
That is true. I almost also forgot that myself.
Oh, like I said, I'm such a Nick Saban guy. I have so many books on him. I've read his whole life. The amount of colleges that man coached, that's incredible. But anyway, then you see some of these guys leave Andy Reid, same thing. Like it's either, they either try to do exactly what that person did, or they try to go completely opposite of it, it seems like. You have to find that middle ground of, okay, I can't repeat what they did because that's who they are, and that's not who I am. But I like how they do X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go over here and do X, Y, and Z, but I'm going to add ABC to it because that's who I am. And then if I start struggling with it, then I can kind of think back, okay, what would have Bill Belichick done in this situation? Okay, this might work, right? Like Kirby Smart at Georgia. They've shown he says exact same wording sometimes in practice as Nick Saban would. But Kirby Smart also has his own way of doing things too. But he's taken what he's learned from Nick Saban and put it in the right direction.
Oh, yeah. Part of the tree.
Lane Kiffin got his whole career changed because of Nick Saban. So there's some things Lane Kiffin does, that's Lane Kiffin. There's some things he does, that's Nick Saban. So it's just, that's another mini rant, but that's just what happens. I've done the same thing where if I become a head coach again, I am going to take things I've learned from head coaches I've worked for, but I'm going to have my own little spice to it. I'm not going to do exactly everything the same. And I think that's what happened with Matt Nagy. I think he tried to do it like Andy Reid that first year, and it worked. It freaking worked. Then he kind of tried to do it his way, and it wasn't working. Eric Bieniemy's offense last year or 2 years ago wasn't working. Everybody that's left Bill Belichick, besides Nick Saban, has seemed to just...
Oh, Bill.
But Sean McVay, I mean, is there really a lot of people that left Sean McVay and haven't done well? I don't know if there's that many because he hasn't been around that long. Minnesota's doing well.
Yeah. I was going to say, Minnesota's doing great. And O'Connell has been, he adopted a young crew. So, they just need to find the right guys. Darnold's a surprise here. So, that's the only thing I got to say to that. But otherwise, I mean, they've been kind of, I think I was trying to see where they were going to be this year. And
I mean, Matt LaFleur coached under him. Matt LaFleur, people forget, he coached under Sean McVay. Mm-hmm. They worked together at Washington, and he was their OC for a couple of years, done pretty well. Zach Taylor coached under him.
Mm-hmm.
He's besides this year, they're kind of having a rough go, but
yeah, I think if we're talking besides O'Connell, there's Zach Taylor, and then Brandon Staley actually.
Yeah, he did not do well.
Definitely was a fall off. I'm afraid. Though I didn't realize he's over in the Bay. He's an assistant head coach now for the 49ers.
Yeah.
Late game collapses. I wonder.
Oh, he's had way more than I thought. Shane Waldron coached under him.
Ooh, I did not know that.
He was the Rams tight ends coach and pass game coordinator from 2017 to 2020.
I'll be damned. I did not realize that. Okay.
Then he went over to the Seahawks in 21 to be the OC.
Who would thunk it? Yeah.
So now I want to see more creativity from this offense. Then this explains a lot. You see, you think I would have figured this out, or this is horrible radio, and I'm a horrible podcast guy. This is why we run so much wide zone, because that's what Sean McVay does.
Mm.
And it's all making sense.
The pieces definitely are forming together.
I'm a horrible podcast guy because I should have known that. I should have done research on Shane Waldron. But I was just going back to his OC days.
Yeah, we definitely. I see now. Okay. Yeah.
This explains
old habits die hardish. Although at least he's adaptable. Thank God.
Well, again, it's the chef thing, right? If Sean McVay, that's what he is, wide zone. He knows everything about wide zone, and he knows every trick in the book about it. So that's what he's going to do. If Shane Waldron wants to be that guy, you can't be the same chef. Like, it's
True.
just not the same
True.
thing. So maybe this is why he was forcing it. And then, but credit to him, unlike Matt Nagy, he's realized that it wasn't working as well. I could sprinkle it in, but I can't run it all the time. Okay, this is all making sense now. Okay.
Now we're thinking of portals.
Good God, I should have known that about him.
Oh my God.
Oh, I'm a horrible person. I'm a horrible host.
Oh, don't say that now. Hey. Come back to reality.
What else do I know about the world?
There's a lot we need to learn. Just not right now.
What else don't I know about life? We need to liven up here. That's it.
All right. Back to we are reset. Reprogrammed.
Raheem Morris, the Falcon head coached for him too. He was his
Yes.
DP. Yeah.
Oh, I say that one. I had a few Rams accounts that I have on my feed. Somehow I got surprisingly a lot of Rams accounts on my feed. I don't know why, but they were all thrilled when he got that job this past year.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. Good for him.
So why people shit on defense-minded coaches? What's the difference from the coaching wise?
Can I put in my 2 cents real quick before I let the coach speak?
Absolutely.
So I think why they get crapped on by the general media shows is because the league is going offense first. And I think that is what you've noticed as a trend is a lot of teams want to find the next best offensive mind, and they want to find and be the next best offensive force in the league. Defense seems to come second, and it feels like it's becoming more of a secondary item as the years go by. Even the NFL rules have made it seem like it needs to become a secondary item to emphasize offensive motion. So that's why I think all the demonization of defensive coordinators as head coaches happens is because, well, hey, cool. Now you need to get an offensive coordinator then that's actually going to do his job, because we don't buy that you're going to be involved in that department. Like, great, you can be a great defensive mind, but you do need that opposite side of things to work. Can't just finish 7-9 every year. So that's how I interpret it. I mean, I've watched enough FS1 and ESPN the last few years to kind of get that feeling, and I think that's exactly what's going on here.
I don't have much to add to that. I was going to say the college rules are leaning towards offense. The NFL rules are leaning towards offense.
Truth.
One of the highest paid players are wide receivers and quarterbacks, so that's kind of where they go. And then I think they just had in recent trends have looked at Super Bowl winning teams. Are they defensive-minded head coaches? Andy Reid's an offensive-minded head coach. Doug Peterson was an offensive-minded head coach. The only defensive-minded one as of late, and I have to be corrected, is Bill Belichick. Sean McVay's an offensive guy. Kyle Shanahan gets to the Super Bowl. He is an offensive guy. And so I think that's just kind of what it's been. And then if you think about high schools, if you watch head coaches, they're mainly offensive play callers. I don't know why it's not always like that, but it seems to be like that. But like you said, then you have to put pressure on, if you're a defensive-minded guy, you better hire a great offensive coordinator then, because if the offense doesn't do well, then you're not going to look good because you're the head coach.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's always the immediate question when we've seen guys like recently, because even when Eberflus got hired, or even like we can go this past year with Dan Quinn. Like, I'll be honest, I think there's a lot of mixed response to Dan Quinn getting hired back in Washington, because yes, veteran coach, but defensive coach, came off just a god-awful performance on his own end with Dallas to finish his tenure out there, which was pretty solid for a rebound, by the way. Just terrible ending the way they did going into a wild card matchup. And then, he comes in, you have the veteran spot, but again, who's calling the plays? That's always the next question. It's like, cool, he can manage the locker room. He has great defensive schemes, even though he finished on a sour note to end his last season. But who the hell's running this whole thing? Because you can play defense, but that's not going to win you. That's not always going to win you football games anymore, like it did maybe 2 decades ago, or 15 years ago. You have to have some sort of downfield passing game or some sort of direction in your offense that you can lean on. Like say, like even if you have like Baltimore, you know, they're not even one facet anymore. They used to be. Like I'm watching Lamar Jackson these days. No, they're multifaceted. Derrick Henry's the best running back in the league, and then you add in what is clearly a Lamar Jackson that is not the same man that came into this league. Like you got to have passing. You got to have down to the passing ability, and you just have to hope to God you get the right OC. Otherwise, you just have a defensive head coach that goes, well, you figure this crap out. I'm going to just keep on my side of the ball because that's all I'm doing, you know, for the most part. Unless you're like a Robert Saleh that's kind of trying to do that. But, I mean, Robert Saleh is looking like he's going to be out the door by the end of the year, the way things are going in my eyes. So,
you need to try to find a head coach that's both to really be successful. Now, are you going, like, unless you're Andy Reid, right? Like, Andy Reid's that rare bird of, he's offensive minded. He lets his defensive guys do their thing, and it works. I think Bill Belichick was kind of more defense, but I think he was kind of both. Like he knew what was going on the offense. If you think about it from a college perspective, Nick Saban is a defensive guy, but he figured out how to coach everything, right? So he knew what the offense was doing, and he understood. He sat there and watched film with Tua. There's clips of him like they're watching film together. They're doing these things. I think Matt Eberflus is probably from Hard Knocks. He's kind of doing the same thing with Caleb Williams. Because Nick Saban coached Matt Eberflus in college, so like he has that connection. Kirby Smart's a defensive guy, but he learned under Nick Saban how to kind of run a program and try to fix that. But you look at college. Ryan Day at Ohio State's an offensive-minded guy. When Mike Leach was around, he called the offense, and he's an offensive guy.
Yeah.
Like you just kind of look at it, and that's just kind of the trend and also because of the fans. The reason why they lean towards us because fans want to see like 40 points on the board.
Well, yes. 3, 4, you want to see 30 plus or so on the board, a quarterback that can throw easily 300 yards a game right now, you know, running backs. And maybe if your running back can get like 80 plus yards right now, you're happy. Running backs, that's another, we talk defense. And RBs feel like have been decentivized over recent years more so than not. You know, there's still great room for great talents on the defensive end of the ball, and you can still find great running backs like we've talked about in the past. You know, I mean, heck, Derrick Henry's on the verge of 10,000 yards by the end of the year, most likely. You know, but still,
who's the best or hottest OC? Dude from the Lions, or who you all think? Miami coach is OC minded, but not defensive names. Ben Johnson from the Lions is a hot name. He was a hot name last year. Offensive minded guy.
Still surprising he kept and stayed with Detroit, but he wants an assignment, so I get it.
Who else is a hot?
You said Cliff Kingsbury, but I don't know if he's going to be a head coach anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, he would be a hot name if they turn it around. Could he if they do well on offense the whole year? Is he going to find himself back? But I don't know if he wants to be a head coach again. That's also the other thing.
I think he's taking a break from it. You know, he has a little more independence to do what he wants. There's less shenanigans with it. You know, seemed like he had fun at USC for a little bit, and then, you know, he's kind of enjoying himself right now. Plus, he's got the Arizona money to lean on. Remember, he's still getting paid by the Cardinals, so he's got plenty of time to do what he likes to find himself.
Monken, I still believe, is the OC for the Ravens. If they do very well this year, he could be a hot name that gets thrown around. I really don't know any other. There's really no other to me like bearing hot names because, you know, Andy Reid calls the plays for Kansas City. The Bills looked kind of bad yesterday. It just kind of depends. As of right now, I don't know if there really is that true, like, hot button coach to hire, actually, the more I think about it. Yeah, I don't think so.
I'm not.
Unless there's some position coach that I can't think of, but yeah, I don't really think so. That's a good question, though, but I don't think so.
No, good one. It's a good one. I think it was a main three, but I don't know. Ben Johnson's going to be on the radar anyway next year, like no matter what. So
Ben Johnson will be. Who's the OC for the Houston Texans? Um, he could be a hot one.
that would be Bobby Slowick.
He could be a hot one. They did good last year. They're doing okay this year if they
Mhm.
continue on their trend.
Oh, well, now credit, he started off hot and got a little cold, but Gary Kubiak's son over there in New Orleans,
Yes. Yeah, he could be
who
one.
started off, like I said, Clint Kubiak had a great start, and it's not like they've completely fallen off the rails there. It's just some losses, and have to see how the year plays out. But kind of his first bigger break into this, so kind of watch out. Maybe him.
Um, Brian Flores, the DC from Minnesota. I would like to say he'd be a hot guy, but after all the stuff that happened in Miami, I
Oh,
don't know.
yeah, now you got those reports that Tua claims that he was harassing him and berated him as a quarterback and
Yeah, if you're going by what he's doing in Minnesota with the defense, yes, because they are good. And so you're thinking that he would be one, but is a owner going to take that risk of like all this baggage, right? Now, it is the NFL. They might say, screw it, if you can come in and change and do well. But he's a
yeah.
defensive minded guy. So, that's kind of your other thing. What about Harbaugh for the Chargers? He's offensive minded. Yeah, but he has experience helping out defense and coaching in college. So again, he might be another rare breed of kind of knowing it all. But Harbaugh doesn't call the plays, believe it or
Right.
not. I don't think he doesn't really call the plays. He tries to manage the game a little bit.
Yeah,
Does he have a say in it? Yes, but
him and his brother John, they kind of just have their hand in the entire
they're
pie.
they're football guys. They're just football
Right.
guys. So he's not. When I think offensive minded, I'm thinking of Doug Pearson. I'm thinking about Andy Reid. I'm thinking about Sean McVay. Like that's all they've done is like we're going to coach offense. And I know Andy Reid's been a head coach, but like we've always known him for calling plays. We know Sean McVay for calling plays and Doug Peterson calling plays. Matt LaFleur at Green Bay, he's an offensive guy, like calling plays. When I think of Jim Harbaugh, I don't think about offense. I know he played quarterback. I just think of a head coach. His brother, I think of just a head coach.
Yeah.
Nick Saban, just a head coach. Bill Belichick, just a head coach. Our guy up in Detroit, MCDC, like he played tight end. He helped coach special teams. He's a special teams guy. And I think that's kind of what sets him to be really good is he was a tight ends coach. He was a special teams guy. And he just seems like a football guy. So when you have just a football guy, I think you could be pretty good. When you have just this huge one head coach or the other, and they can't hire a really great coordinator, that's where they'll struggle. Like in Minnesota right now, he's a great play caller, and he's got a good DC. Sean McVay, up until recent years, he's been really good at calling plays, and he's always had a good DC with him, which makes him good. Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick's always had good coordinators when they were winning, and they had Tom Brady. But still, you have to have a good defensive coordinator. Always has, up until the last like 4 years.
Makes me wonder if we wouldn't be as critical on him if he had just hired a coordinator and not gone with two of his better, I would say better compatriots over the recent years as a dual offensive coordinator experiment.
Yeah,
it still baffles me for as legendary a coach he is. He took 1 year and said, F it, let's have some fun. You guys can just go play with the playbook for a year.
Making your defensive guys call offense.
I never will understand how a man with that much pedigree made a call like that with two people that have,
So a football guy's the way to go. It sounds like game manager. You need a game manager. Again, I keep going back. Let me go to my Illini, Brent Bielema.
Oh, yeah.
Brent Bielema is a football guy. He is just a football guy. He played defense in college, or I can't remember which one he played, and he's always kind of coached both. He's always kind of had his hand in the cookie jar in both. I'll never forget. It was a spring game a couple years ago. They're interviewing him on the sideline. He has the headset like this, like the headset's here. He has it pulled back, and they're interviewing him during the spring game. And he goes, "Hold on a second. I'll tell you what the play is." He puts on, he goes, "Hey, what do you got here?" Okay. He turns to him, he goes, "Yeah, it's called this play. He's going to be doing this, this, and this. We're looking for this play, this part, this part." He explained the whole offense. And I'm like, "Oh, you are a football guy." Like, he'll sit there and tell you what the offense is doing on each play call and understands what's going on. So, like, Brent Bielema here's a crazy stat. I don't know the exact numbers. Brent Bielema is one of the top coaches to have offensive linemen go to the NFL and defensive guys go to the NFL. And I'm like, what a strange combination. Like, if you want to play offensive line, you want to play for Brent Bielema. If you want to play defense, you play for Brent Bielema because they go to the NFL.
Teaches you how to do the trenches.
Yeah.
That's the fundamentals of football. That's where it starts.
So just guys like that, if they're just a football guy, they're a manager of the game, they let their coordinators do their thing, they understand what's going on in both, you just let them go. I loved Mike Leach, but he was the first one to tell you, hey, I let the defensive guys do their thing. They got to figure it out. That's why I hired him for. And he'll have conversations, but he's like, I just let them figure it out. So there's two completely different types of people. And for some it works, some it doesn't. But yeah, these are good questions. These are fantastic questions. We got to wait for the Bears for 45 minutes, but it's great questions. But yes, the Bears won. They're off to London. They've already left.
Already taken the flight. Like, you're talking, and already you have some people that they are on the flight, even though injury concern. Apparently, Brisker has had a concussion this week.
Yeah, they said he could still. They said he could still go. Oh God, what kind of coach is Sanders? Oh God,
I don't want to discuss Deion Sanders. So I'm just going to be honest with you. You are free to do it, but I'm not working in TV. I see the man's face too often to not get a little frustrated when I see the amount of hype that gets put behind the guy. So,
I think Deion Sanders is a hype guy. I'm not going to get into it. I like Deion Sanders. I think.
Yeah, I am good without talking about Deion.
All right, because I like him. Like, if he came on the podcast, I would love it. I would talk to him.
Oh, sure.
How did the O-line coach? Is that what he means?
I think he's meaning the line, period.
Oh, I mean, the O-line's getting better at the Bears. I mean, it's we figured out that Waldron coached under Sean McVay, so that's why all the zone stuff was being run, and figured out, wait a minute, I don't have the O-line to do that.
Yeah. I
don't have the O-line to do that consistently. So, I mean, the O-line's getting better, and we've said this every single year. Every single year, the O-line has started rough, and then as the games go on, they get ranked higher and higher and higher.
Slowly finds its feet. Yeah. Slowly finds its feet.
I don't know why it takes them so long, but you know what? If they get hot at the right time, as we get into bye week and go into that second part and that, I'm good with it. I don't care how rough it started. It's how you finish.
No. I'm glad for it. Hey, sign me up.
But yeah, Brisker apparently didn't travel, but they said that he could still make the game. So I think they just left him back to make sure he's good. But they've already left. Matty Eberflus said he wanted to get there as early as possible so they get used to the time and give them an advantage, and the best advantage that they could. Oh my God, they play at 8:30 in the morning Sunday.
Where you're at, they play 6:30 in the morning where I'm at.
Oh, good luck with that.
Yeah, I'll be all right. Thank God I'm a night shift worker and it's a weekend day. Otherwise I'd be missing that game easy. But no, I'm watching.
Oh, but it's on NFL Network. Oh,
NFL Plus. You get that with your Plus subscription.
Oh,
there. Remember?
That's why you're here. That's why
we get that. That's a nice perk. You get that when you buy the Plus subscription. So
perfect.
You got access. Good.
Oh, so we'll be able to do a pregame show very early, or a postgame very early, because it's going to be done at like noon, 11.
I definitely can. I certainly can.
My God.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Bears win. They're off to London. Hello. Good day.
Hello, Governor.
To play the struggling Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll try to do a pregame for that one later on in the week. As long as Coach Steve doesn't screw it up and screw up the times and all that good stuff. I'm excited to watch the All 2022 when it gets out of that game, because it's going to be fun to see.
Oh yeah.
I'm excited for them to play the Jaguars, because that's a very winnable game that they have. And I'm excited to see what Caleb Williams continues to grow into. And, I'm so glad that we don't have Justin Fields anymore. That's how I'll end on it.
I think we have the right people for the job.
Well, as of right now.
I think right now we do. Yes.
Oh yeah, Brinsker is questionable. Terrell Smith is questionable.
Mhm.
Pickens is questionable, and Tevin Jenkins is questionable.
Yeah, he's been getting roughed up lately, but I guess I'm getting the suspicion as long as nothing happens, he's going to play.
Well, it says estimated return date is October 13th.
Ooh.
I don't know why that is.
I don't know.
We should make a run here on out. Yes, the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about before, the Bears' schedule is set up perfectly to try to compete and put themselves in a good situation. You got now, well, let me phrase that. These last two games, the Panthers were set up perfectly, and the Jaguars are set up perfectly.
Right.
Then you get your bye week, and they need that bye week to kind of regroup, make sure they're healthy, and then you go to Washington. And so that's kind of where it's like, hey, welcome back from your bye week. You got to go to Washington. That's on fire right now. And that's going to be a chess match between all coordinators. Dan Quinn, I don't know if he's calling the defense, but I'm sure he's got his fingerprints all over it. That'll be fun watching Shane Waldron try to play that chess match with him, and Matty Eberflus playing a chess match with Cliff Kingsbury.
Oh yeah,
that'll be real fun.
Oh yeah.
And then to me, Arizona is a trap game, and that's in your neck of the woods on November 3rd.
It certainly is. That being said, though, I think it's still winnable. I am going to be making sure I get myself a ticket very soon, so that will be happening.
Oh, at 3:05 p.m. it says. What a weird time. 3:05.
Yeah. It's one of the evening games.
Yeah.
It'll be like well, at that point it'll be 2 here. Time change will have happened by then.
Yeah. It'll be on CBS too, a big time game in the evening.
Yeah. That's one thing I learned recently too is both networks can get games from either conference now. The networks aren't locked in anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of just bid for them freely.
And then we start to get to the bulk of it. The Patriots should be winnable because they're not the same.
Mm-hmm.
And we get the Packers.
Yeah.
November
big
7th.
Big test. Got to beat Green Bay.
I'll be 34. I'll be 34 when we play Green Bay.
Wow.
34 in 5 days. Or 34 in 4 days.
Gotta beat Green Bay, man. That's the first true step. That's really what it is. It's the first true step.
Yep. So yeah, to answer his thing, yes, the Bears can go on a mini run before they get into that Green Bay Vikings Lions block that they have. And man, if San Francisco keeps playing the way they do and we go to San Francisco, and if we're continuing to grow, I feel better about that game as it goes on.
Yeah.
And then Shane Waldron gets to play his old team later on after Christmas. The Seahawks. But yes, the Bears can go on a run. The Bears are going to, if they could keep growing and pushing this like they have been, they are competing for a playoff spot, which is what we predicted. We predicted that they should be competing for a playoff spot. It looks like the Vikings or Lions will win the division, one of the two, just how it's going to happen. As long as we beat Green Bay and push for a playoff spot, there'll be a successful season.
So I'll take it. We'll take it.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching and or listening. We'll try a pregame show later on in the week and a postgame show very early in the morning Sunday after they play in London. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave comments, all that good stuff. So we'll see you guys next time.